Eminem has faced countless controversies throughout his career, from being accused of racism for donning a sombrero to criticism for promoting violence, misogyny, and homophobia in his lyrics. Some even went as far as claiming his music endangered society. Despite all of this, there's only one instance where Eminem felt compelled to issue an apology, specifically for dissing another rapper. That rapper? Tyler, the Creator. What started as admiration between them, Tyler even once calling Eminem his favorite rapper, eventually led to a heated exchange of disses, culminating in Eminem saying something he would later regret. I was angry when I said that about Tyler. The story begins on November the 27th, 2014, when a younger and brasher, Tyler, took to Twitter with his unfiltered opinion. "I love you, Marshall. You're one of my favorite rappers. But dude, Shady 15 is f***ing trash. Why won't someone who loves him tell him no?" For those unfamiliar, Shady 15 was a compilation album celebrating the 15th anniversary of Eminem's Shady Records. Unfortunately, it wasn't well received, with many fans and critics panning it as a low-effort cash grab. Reviews from outlets like Pitchfork 2 out of 10 echoed this sentiment, cementing it as one of Eminem's weakest releases. While Tyler's criticism might have seemed harsh, it hit differently, coming from someone who had previously idolized Eminem's. Early in his career, Tyler openly admitted to drawing inspiration from Slim Shady. His lyrics were packed with shocking, over-the-top imagery, not unlike Eminem's in his prime. For example, in the controversial track Yonkers, Tyler threatened to stab Bruno Mars in his goddamn esophagus and proclaimed he'd crash airplanes just to disrupt mainstream pop culture. Similarly, in his song Radicals, Tyler encouraged listeners to kill people, burn f***ing school, prompting outrage among parents and media outlets alike. It wasn't just his provocative lyrics that mirrored Eminem's audacity. Tyler's career trajectory seemed to follow a similar playbook. In a 2011 meeting with Eminem in Ireland, Tyler declared Relapse as one of his all-time favorite albums and described meeting his idol as a personal milestone. Given this history, his harsh critique of Shady 15 felt like a betrayal. Tyler wasn't just voicing disappointment, he was publicly challenging an artist he once revered. This tweet alone might not have warranted a response from Eminem, but Tyler's continued criticisms over the years eventually pushed him to fire back. What unfolded next would lead to Eminem crossing a line he couldn't ignore, setting the stage for a feud that's as memorable for its controversy as for its music. While Tyler's 2014 tweet was bold, it didn't immediately provoke Eminem. For years, critiques like Tyler's were part of the narrative surrounding Eminem's career, but as time passed, his frustrations simmered. Tyler wasn't alone in saying he was disappointed. A lot of longtime fans felt the same about Eminem's changing style and perceived decline. This shift became clearest when Eminem released Recovery in 2009. While the album was a commercial success, a lot of fans thought it was a big departure from the rawness of his earlier stuff like the Marshall Mathers LP. Tracks like Not Afraid leaned toward an inspirational pop-heavy sound, a lot different than the chaos and grit of Eminem's early days. And then there were moments where his wordplay bordered on absurdity. Take the line from On Fire, "I can't call it the same shit, different toilet, I'm the bee's knees, his legs, and arms." For fans used to Slim Shady's razor-sharp wit, these lines felt more like dad jokes than lyrical genius. Critics didn't hold back. They accused Eminem of pandering to a broader audience, abandoning his roots for chart-topping hooks and safe collaborations. Then, in 2014, Eminem released Shady XV, a compilation album celebrating the 15th anniversary of Shady Records. Tyler wasn't impressed, tweeting, "I love you, Marshall. You're one of my favorite rappers. But dude, Shady XV is f***ing trash. Why won't someone who loves him tell him no?" Still, Eminem didn't respond yet, but 3 years later, Tyler struck again, this time during the rollout for Eminem's 2017 album, Revival. This project would go on to be one of the most polarizing moments in Eminem's career, leaning heavily into political themes. Revival addressed issues like racism and police brutality, while also targeting figures like Donald Trump and Mike Pence. But instead of being praised for its social awareness, the album was widely criticized for its lack of nuance, over-polished production, and again, the cringe-inducing nature of some of its lyrics. One infamous example? The line from Heat where Eminem raps, "Grab you by the meow, hope it's not a problem." In fact, about the only thing I agree on with Donald is that. It wasn't just the lyrics that felt off. The whole album struggled to recapture the raw energy that fans once loved. Tyler wasted no time sharing his thoughts. On November 10, 2017, the day Eminem dropped Walk on Water, the album's lead single, featuring Beyoncé, Tyler tweeted, "Dear God, this song is horrible." Though he didn't tag Eminem directly, the timing left no doubt about who he was talking about. And Tyler wasn't alone. Fans and critics alike trashed Revival, calling it overly commercial and preachy. The album's performance reflected this backlash. It sold just under 200,000 units in its first week, Eminem's lowest debut at the time. For context, this is the same artist who once sold nearly 2 million copies of the Marshall Mathers LP in a week. The reaction was so brutal that it prompted Eminem to release Kamikaze just 8 months later, an album fueled by anger and a desire to prove his critics wrong. In the midst of this firestorm, Tyler's comments clearly struck a nerve. What had once been a one-sided critique now felt personal to Eminem, and when he finally responded on Kamikaze, the fallout would show just how deeply Tyler's words had cut. This political approach wasn't entirely new for Eminem. He had touched on these themes during his so-called prime, but this time, it simply didn't land. Revival became the focus of widespread criticism for failing to recapture the fiery energy and raw delivery of Eminem's earlier work. A significant complaint was the album's production, overly polished and lacking the rugged, underground sound that had been synonymous with Eminem's best projects, the pop-heavy collaborations, such as those with Beyoncé and Ed Sheeran, only fueled claims that Eminem was desperately chasing mainstream relevance. Fans and critics alike pointed to examples like Untouchable, a track that tackled systemic racism, but did so with awkward delivery and a beat that felt more suited for satire than serious commentary. Then there were the cringe-worthy bars like in Framed, where Eminem rapped, "Woke up, it was dawn, musta knew something was wrong, think I'm becoming a monster 'cause the drugs that I'm on." Lines like these felt like caricatures of his earlier brilliance, failing to connect with listeners in a meaningful way. The first single, Walk on Water, was perhaps the biggest misstep. A collaboration with Beyoncé, it was meant to showcase Eminem's vulnerability as an artist. Instead, it was perceived as overly dramatic and uninspired, with many fans mocking its somber tone. Tyler wasted no time joining the chorus of disapproval, tweeting on the same day of its release, "Dear God, this song is horrible." Once again, Tyler's critique resonated with fans who felt Eminem had lost touch with his roots. When Revival finally dropped, it performed poorly by Eminem's standards, selling fewer than 200,000 units in its first week, his lowest debut ever. The album was widely panned, with some reviews ranking it among the worst hip-hop albums of the decade. Eminem, who had built his legacy on defying criticism, now found himself in an unfamiliar position, vulnerable and ridiculed. 8 months later, Eminem returned with Kamikaze, an album designed to silence his critics. Unlike Revival, this project was a surprise release, dropping without any promotional singles or announcements. The album was executively produced by Dr. Dre and featured Eminem's trademark aggression and biting lyricism. It was a direct response to the backlash, with Eminem calling out everyone who had slighted him, including Joe Budden, Charlemagne, Tha God, and, of course, Tyler, the Creator. One of the most controversial moments on Kamikaze came on the track Fall, where Eminem unleashed a homophobic slur against Tyler, referencing his sexuality. In the song, he rapped, "Tyler create nothin'. I see why you call yourself a f***ing." Though the word was censored in the final version, the intent behind it was clear, and it immediately sparked outrage. This was a significant misstep for Eminem, who seemed oblivious to the changing cultural landscape. Tyler had come out as queer in his 2017 album Flower Boy, making the slur not just offensive, but also deeply personal. Eminem, who had previously faced backlash for using similar language, found himself once again at odds with the LGBTQ+ community. The fallout was swift, with critics and fans alike condemning the line as outdated and unnecessary. Tyler addressed the diss during an interview, expressing disappointment rather than anger. He remarked, "My favorite rapper really inspired me. I don't like his new stuff, and he doesn't like that I don't like his new stuff." His response highlighted the irony of the feud. A once-admired mentor now seemed bitter over criticism from a younger artist he had influenced. In a rare moment of reflection, Eminem later admitted he regretted the line. During an interview with Sway Calloway, he explained, "I was angry when I said that, I felt like, at what point do I have to defend myself? This was a turning point, and Eminem publicly recognized the gravity of his words. But let's be real. Eminem's diss didn't land the way he thought it would. Instead of reminding everyone why he's the rap god, he came off like the out-of-touch uncle who doesn't get why the jokes don't hit anymore. Tyler, on the other hand, walked away looking unbothered, like a guy who didn't need to stoop to that level. In the end, the whole thing said more about where both rappers are in their careers than it did about their beef. Eminem, still swinging, but not always connecting. Tyler, cool, collected, and keeping it moving.